Hello, fellow history buffs. Now let's talk about Canada in the early 1900s. Picture this, a young country finding its place in the world. But guess what? Two massive historical currents were about to collide. Women's suffrage and the First World War. These events, intertwined like a pretzel, would reshape Canada forever. It's a story of struggle, sacrifice, and ultimately triumph. Imagine a Canada where women couldn't even vote. Shocking, eh? But their fight for equality was just heating up as the world plunged into war. Now some folks thought, war? That's men's business. But Canadian women, they had other plans. From factories to fields, they kept the home fires burning, and on battlefields far away, our brave nurses, the Bluebirds, tended to the wounded with courage and compassion. This wasn't just about winning battles, it was about winning rights. The war became a catalyst for social change, a proving ground for women's capabilities. So, buckle up because we're about to embark on a journey through a pivotal time in Canadian history. Get ready to meet some remarkable women who fought tirelessly for their rights, their country, and a better future for all. Let's rewind a bit back to a time when women in Canada were practically invisible in the eyes of the law. No voting? No way. These ladies were having none of it. They knew they deserved a voice and they were determined to make it heard. Enter the pioneers, the trailblazers, women like Dr. Emily Stowe, Canada's first female doctor who faced ridicule and discrimination just for pursuing her dream. And let's not forget the fearless Nellie McClung, a writer and activist who used her voice to champion women's rights. These women and countless others organized, campaigned and challenged the status quo. They wrote letters, gave speeches and even faced arrest, all in the name of equality. From coast to coast, the suffrage movement gained momentum. Western provinces, a tad more progressive, started granting women the right to vote provincially, a sign of things to come, eh? It was a hard-fought battle, but these early victories proved that change was possible. Little did they know, a world war was about to test their mettle like never before. Boom! The year is 1914 and the world explodes. The Great War, as it was known then, plunges Europe into chaos. Canada, still a young dominion of the British Empire, is called upon to do its part. Now, many Canadians, caught up in the patriotic fervour, saw the war as a grand adventure. Young men rushed to enlist, eager to prove their courage and loyalty, but amidst the excitement, a sense of dread lingered. This was a war on a scale never seen before, and its consequences would be far-reaching. Canada's entry into the war would forever alter the course of its history. It also presented an unexpected opportunity for women in the fight for suffrage. With men away fighting, women stepped up to fill the void on the home front, proving their indispensable value to the nation. Little did anyone know the war that sought to tear the world apart would become a catalyst for social change, pushing women's rights to the forefront of the national conversation. With the men away, it was up to the women to keep Canada running, and boy did they ever. From factories to farms, they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. It was a far cry from their traditional roles, but these women were tough, resourceful, and determined to do their part. Imagine this, bustling factories, once dominated by men, now filled with the clang of machinery operated by women. They built munitions, assembled vehicles, and produced essential supplies for the troops overseas. Out on the prairies, women took charge of the farms, ensuring that Canada could feed itself and its allies. They toiled tirelessly, planting, harvesting and tending to livestock, all while managing households and caring for their families. The war effort demanded sacrifice from everyone, and Canadian women rose to the challenge with unwavering spirit and resilience. Their contributions on the home front were nothing short of remarkable, challenging traditional gender roles and proving their mettle in a time of national crisis. The experience would have a lasting impact, forever changing the way Canadians viewed women's capabilities and their rightful place in society. Section 5. Angels of Mercy, Canadian Nursing Sisters in World War I. Amidst the horrors of war, a beacon of hope emerged. The Canadian Nursing Sisters. These brave women, nicknamed Bluebirds for their distinctive blue uniforms, brought compassion and care to the battlefields of Europe. Imagine the scene: makeshift hospitals, overwhelmed with wounded soldiers, the air thick with the stench of antiseptic and the groans of the injured. It was a demanding and often dangerous job, but the nursing sisters faced it all with unwavering courage and unwavering dedication. They tended to wounds, administered medication, and offered comfort to the dying. Their presence brought solace to countless soldiers, reminding them of home and the humanity that war so often obscured. The nursing sisters served with distinction, earning the respect and admiration of soldiers and civilians alike. Their bravery and sacrifice during the war further highlighted women's capabilities and their essential role in Canadian society. Section 6. Battles of Valor and Sacrifice, Ypres, Somme, Vimy Ridge. The First World War was a brutal conflict, and Canadian soldiers found themselves embroiled in some of its most horrific battles. Names like Ypres, the Somme, and Vimy Ridge became synonymous with sacrifice and courage. Ypres, in Belgium, saw the first major use of chemical weapons, leaving a scar on the Canadian psyche. The Somme, a months-long battle of attrition, claimed the lives of thousands of Canadians on the very first day. And at Vimy Ridge, in 1917, Canadian troops achieved a stunning victory against formidable German defenses, but at a terrible cost. These battles tested the limits of human endurance, leaving indelible marks on those who fought and died there. The sacrifices made by Canadians in these battles helped to forge a sense of national identity and pride. It also underscored the devastating consequences of war, a sentiment shared by many back home, including those advocating for women's suffrage. Section 7. The conscription crisis, dividing a nation at war. As the war dragged on and casualties mounted, the issue of conscription or mandatory military service arose in Canada. Prime Minister Robert Borden, facing a shortage of volunteers, believed conscription was necessary to maintain Canada's commitment to the war effort. However, the idea proved deeply divisive. French Canadians, many of whom felt little connection to the war in Europe, opposed conscription. Farmers already short on labour worried about the impact of losing more men to the military. The debate over conscription exposed deep-seated tensions within Canadian society, particularly between English and French Canada. It also highlighted the growing pacifist movement, led in part by women who had witnessed firsthand the devastating impact of war on their families and communities. The conscription crisis of 1917 shook Canada to its core, leaving a legacy of resentment and division that would linger for decades. Section 8. Victory and Legacy Suffrage, Societal Shifts, and Modern Canada. Finally, in 1918, the guns fell silent in Europe. The Great War, the war to end all wars, was over, but its impact on Canada would be felt for generations to come. The war had irrevocably altered the social fabric of the nation, and women's roles were forever changed. In recognition of their contributions and sacrifices during the war, women finally achieved a hard-fought victory, the right to vote in federal elections. The Wartime Elections Act of 1917, while a controversial piece of legislation, had granted limited voting rights to women, and in 1918, full federal suffrage was achieved. But the fight for equality didn't end there. Women continued to challenge discriminatory laws and social norms, paving the way for future generations of Canadians. The war had been a crucible, forging a stronger sense of national identity and purpose. It had also exposed societal inequities and ignited a passion for social justice that would continue to shape Canada throughout the 20th century and beyond. The intertwined stories of women's suffrage and Canada's involvement in the First World War serve as a powerful reminder of the complexities of history. They remind us that progress is rarely linear, often born out of struggle and sacrifice, and most importantly, they remind us of the power of courage, determination, and the unwavering pursuit of equality.